Hey y'all, welcome back to Serving Up Plumbing with me, David Butler. And today, we're going to be talking about closet flanges. For you plumbers out there, I hope you all know what a closet flange is. For you DIYers out there, a closet flange is what we use to mount the toilet to the floor. A closet in plumbing terms, or a toilet in plumbing terms, is considered a water closet. So we have closet flanges to bolt them to the floor. But before I get into any more detail, please hit that subscribe button, give it a thumbs up if you like this video, and let me know what you'd like to see in the future. Now let's get into how you mount a toilet to the floor. Wow, look at all these closet flanges. Did you ever think there were this many types of closet flanges? And believe me, this isn't all of them. There are others. This is just primarily the different ones we use here in the North Texas area. Well, let's talk about them. First of all, one of the most used closet flanges we have are these two right here. This is called a 4x3. We do mostly slab foundations these days in North Texas. Therefore, oftentimes we'll stub up a 4-inch pipe from underneath the slab. This fits inside the 4-inch pipe. The wonderful thing about that is that was made for plumbers. That way we can put this right inside the pipe without busting any concrete out around the pipe. If we were going to use one that fits over the pipe, we're going to have to chip out the concrete around it to slide it over it. But this is called a 4x3. It fits inside 4-inch pipe and it fits over 3-inch pipe. This is 3-inch pipe, fits right inside there. But this is 4-inch size pipe, and you'll see it's the exact size of 4-inch size inside diameter pipe. So this fits right inside the 4-inch pipe. Then you can use your screws to anchor it down properly. And remember, we always need to anchor closet flanges. A lot of guys try and let the PVC be strong enough to hold them, and I can't tell you how many replace. Code requires that these be anchored into the concrete. We use Tapcon anchors on all of ours. You can use mushroom drive-in head anchors, lots of different ways. Just make sure you anchor your flange. If it's in wood, long screws, good big screws. That's a 4x3, probably the most used flange we have. And some of them have knockout plugs in the middle so that you can do your testing, your water testing for the inspections. Some don't. This one goes over 3-inch pipe. Cool flanges, right? Stainless steel rings, everything great about it. And that's probably the most commonly used flange I know in the North Texas area, maybe in the nation. What's next? The offset flange. This is for making up for mistakes. Sometimes it's the plumber's mistake, sometimes it's the framer's mistake. What this gives you is an 1.5 inch offset, either forward out from the wall if your toilet won't fit, sideways, you can go left and right with it, or you can go forwards or even backwards if you end up roughing it too far from the wall or too close to the wall. These are great things to have. The wonderful thing about this also is, again, this fits inside 4-inch pipe or over 3-inch pipe. If you're above on the second story, you can glue it over. If you're down in the slab, you can put it inside the 4-inch. You can chip down just a little bit of concrete to give this throat a place to go and put that in place. Now, you do have to be careful which wax rings you use when you use this flange, but we'll talk about that in another video. That is an offset flange. Again, that makes up for a mistake of a plumber not getting his pipe in the right place or a framer putting his wall where it's not supposed to be. I will tell you this. Some places, inspectors will not approve these type flanges. It just depends on what city you're in, and of course you're out in the county, it won't matter one way or the other. Oftentimes these are used mainly on repairs when you're going back and maybe it's not being permitted. But if you're doing a new construction site, you may have an inspector that won't approve an offset flange. And also notice these are no longer stainless steel flanges, these are painted flanges. And they are good flanges, they'll still last. A lot of times if these get damaged, you'll see they start rusting. And I've even seen the stainless flanges rust because of the quality of the stainless steel. But you should get a good 10 to 20 years out of a flange like this. All right, we're still talking about PVC closet flanges. Now, this is a 4-inch inside flange. Now this is very long. That's so if your pipe ends up being below the slab, this will actually fit inside the 4-inch pipe extra deep. This particular one fits inside 3-inch. Now most inspectors don't like this one from get-go if you're doing new construction because they say the throat is a little bit too small. Well, actually that's the same size or even larger than the inside of a toilet. So oftentimes we use these on repairs where we have to go back and put them inside a 3-inch flange. You can actually go down, if you have a flange like this, and slide this through that flange. All you need to do is do an inside cutter and cut this flange off. You can slide this down inside the 3-inch pipe that's over, and then you've got a new flange. These are great for repairs, not so great to put in as new construction. Same with this, you've got extra length, and of course you can cut these off whatever length you need to add on if you're a little far below the slab or need to get further up. One of the last PVC flanges I want to talk about, and I'm not crazy about these kind of flanges because if you'll notice, you have an all plastic top. Well, it doesn't take much to over tighten this and break this plastic. When you put your closet bolts in, and you notice this is thin too, you have to be very careful when tightening closet bolts, but that's another video. You have to be very careful when tightening the bolts. I'm not crazy about these plastic flanges like this. You do still have the anchoring. You got to make sure, especially with these, you anchor them very well. But they do make a lot of flanges that are solid plastic like this. If you know what you're doing and you don't over tighten this, they'll be fine. Of course, these flanges won't ever rust either, but what type of flange is this? Well, if you'll read right here, this says PVC replacement for cast iron closet flange. Now, a lot of guys will try and use this flange on lead bins and on PVC. It says right there for cast iron flange replacement. That means on an older house where you had cast iron coming up through the floor as your closet flange, this is made to go inside that. This rubber expands by tightening these 3 Allen nuts inside. It bulges that plastic out that grips the inside of the cast iron. This is not made for PVC or for lead. It is made for cast iron. I've seen a lot of guys use these on PVC and lead. Sometimes you can get away with it. It won't grip the inside of it properly. Again, you still need to anchor it properly or it will literally pull this flange out of the pipe. But it is great when you've got an old cast iron pipe and you need to replace that old cast iron flange that's broken. Oftentimes those flanges were lead and oakum. If you need to get that old flange out of the way, you can literally take a hammer and break it off. Just leave enough to slide this inside the old pipe. And this fits inside 4-inch cast iron. All right, so you plumbers out there are familiar with lead stubs or lead bins that bring lead up. And we have brass flanges. Believe me, I'm an old school plumber. I'm 64 years old. I've been doing plumbing 47 years. I love brass flanges. These are there to stay from now on. Some of them are extra heavy like this. Some of them are a little lighter weight. But a good solid brass flange like this will last in a house forever. I have these in my house and mine are 30 years old. I pulled my toilets. They look as good as they did the day I put them in. You do still have to make sure and anchor these to the concrete. A lot of old plumbers, back in the day, they would take 4-pound lead, roll it over the flange, and they wouldn't even solder them on or screw it down. Well, ultimately those toilets worked loose, but they did last a long time. Today, we solder these flanges on the lead, and we've been doing that for a long time, probably 60 or 80 years. In a future video, I'm going to show you how to solder these on, but what I want to talk about right now is the different kinds. This is a shallow flange for when you have plenty of lead sticking up, okay? This is a deep brass flange. Notice it goes down in the concrete 1 inch. That way, if your lead tears off at the top, you can slide this down and you can get a little bit of extra depth to be able to solder that lead in here if the lead's worn out and gone away. This can help prevent you from having to bust someone's slab out and go in and replace it all with PVC. Now granted, there's sometimes it's just time to do that. But oftentimes we can save a customer a lot of money if we know how to properly install a brass flange. One last brass flange, and I will tell you, I don't like these at all. I've never seen them work well. In fact, I'm just showing you it, so if you ever run across it, I'm gonna tell you, don't go back with it. Throw it away, get rid of it, change it out. If you need to bust out the concrete to get down to the lead to get it to the right spot, that's my recommendation. I'm gonna have a lot of you old plumbers out there probably go off on me about this, and that's fine, but from my 47 years of experience, these generally cause more problems than they're worth. They give you an offset so you can gain that repair that you need if you happen to be too close to the wall or have to go right or left. But the problem is the way the wax fits on them, they always start leaking at some point, usually within 2 to 5 years. Now you've got a leak on the floor, you do water damage, especially if it's anything near hardwoods or laminate floors. I just don't recommend using these at all. I wanted you to see it because you may pull a toilet up someday and see this. If that's what you find, my recommendation to you is bust out the concrete and get rid of that flange completely. Move your lead or put PVC in. Again, this is a brass offset flange. Man, have you ever seen anything that crazy? Well, a lot of the fancier toilets nowadays have something that looks similar to this. This part right here, if you notice, actually bolts down on top of the flange like so. Your closet bolts come through here, but the back of your toilet actually goes in right here. Once you get this put in place and anchored properly, and make sure this is all anchored, this actually sets very easily. The toilet pushes right down into this. It's a perfect seal, and that's what it looks like under your toilet. You don't even know it's done this way until you pull the toilet. But a lot of our toilets nowadays have this or some resemblance of this that they're putting in now to install a new toilet. Understand, this has to bolt down to a regular closet flange of some type. No matter what it is, it's got to be bolted onto a regular closet flange. That's where the closet bolts go, right there. What happens if you break one of these flanges? Maybe this whole section breaks out here, or maybe someone tightened it down too much and the bolt pulls through, or this is broken off, or especially if it's one of these plastic flanges like this and you snap off one edge here, which I've seen many a time. Well, they do make what's called a spanner flange set, and these are flange repair kits. Now there is a spanner flange that's a little piece that slides under right here. I know I miscalled that, but these flange repair kits and spanner flanges, they do make things that you can repair the flange. This comes apart, fits right underneath here. You can put this underneath the old flange. It does the same thing. It replaces these flanges so that when this rusts out, you can put a new flange under it. I'm not real crazy about these. They're kind of light metal. A lot of times they're not stainless, they're galvanized. Different companies make them. There are instances where I think these are a good option and a good idea, and there's times when they're not. But this is an option that you can use to repair. It comes in pieces like this. You put it together and you repair your flange. You don't have to bust any concrete out. It's a less cost for the homeowner. May not be as long-term a repair than putting in a new flange, but it is out there for you to use. One last item. How do you set a closet flange and what depth? This is something I see so many plumbers make a mistake with, and sometimes it's tile men that come in and do this. But where do you set a flange? So let's say this is your floor right here. Flanges go on top of the floor like that. They do not go flush with the floor. They do not go down below the floor. They go on top of the floor, so it should look like that right there. This should be about 1/4 inch to the top of it from the finished floor. And this is finished flooring. That means if this is the tile, this goes on top of that. The flange should be set after the tile is put in place. This flange has to be set to where it's setting on top of the flooring. We run into this all the time where flanges are set down this low. I've even had plumbers tell me, oh, you're supposed to set them this way. Well, you can argue with me if you want to, but you're wrong. You do not set flanges below the floor. Tile men come in all the time and add tile to floors and add the thickness to the floor. They make the flanges lower and lower on the floor because they're adding on top of the floor. A properly set flange is on top. If you set it down lower, you're not going to compress your wax or your seal enough, and you're eventually going to have a leaking toilet. That's not a good thing to have. This has to be sitting on top of your finished floor, just like that, to properly set a toilet. Now there's different things you can do. Most of the time, the best thing to do to make it properly done is cut the old flange out, put a new flange in. That's why they make these flanges with extended tail pieces, so you can add on to them and make it taller. Great idea, right? Remember, the flange needs to be set flush on top of the finished flooring, whatever it is, whether it's laminate, whether it's tile, whether it's hardwood. This needs to set on top. If the inspectors require you to put it in before they get the new floor in, you can always shim it above the wood that's there or the concrete, put you some spacers and make it be high enough so that they can slide the tile underneath it. You do not want the tile flush with this floor. You will never have a good seal. And that's a lot of information about closet flanges, isn't it? As I said, there are other closet flanges out there, other things manufactured, other inventions and gimmicks to fix things. This is just a sprinkling of what we have here in the North Texas area where I've grown up doing plumbing. If you have some specialty flange that I haven't talked about here or you've seen before, I'd love to see it dropped in the comments. Man, did you ever think there was that much to know about closet flanges and that there were that many different kinds? Well, now you do. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope now you know a little bit more about how to put closet flanges down, what height they're supposed to be, and how you're supposed to install them. Always make sure and anchor them. Thanks for watching. Please give it a thumbs up if you like this video, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts on closet flanges. Maybe you've seen one that I've never seen before. I look forward to hearing from you. And don't forget, tell your friends the Butler did it.